Hey there everyone, it's Asenjo here. A bunch of my friends are getting back into Dragon's Crown because of Dragon's Crown Pro, so wanted to make a few skill videos starting with the Amazon to showcase the different skills and the skill levels for what people have. For the ones that aren't interested in commentary and just want to get right down to what they look like, I made an abridged version of this first Amazon video, and I'm going to make an abridged version for every one that I do. So for those that are interested, the abridged versions are going to be linked in the video and the description. The first skill that you're going to see in an Amazon's kit is going to be Stun Wave. For the ones that have played Amazon before, understand it's one of the most reliable ways to actually hit enemies at a distance. I mean, you can still throw your axe with the power attack button, but obviously you're either going to have to change to a different axe, pick the axe back up, but unlike those options, this one is very spammable. Once you get it to max level, you're basically attacking people full screen in a line. You still gain Berserk from doing this move. You sustain less durability damage than from fighting up close with parry and doing your combos and stuff like that. And for a plus, whatever status effects you have on your axe, such as, freeze, stun, petrify, all that stuff applies to Stun Wave. So you can basically have a huge mob of monsters that you're fighting and just immobilize all of them just by spamming Stun Wave. Just some info for thought, keep that in mind when you're trying out the character and their skills. From the video you can see Stun Wave level 1 basically just grants you access to using Stun Wave. After that you got Stun Wave level 4, which kind of starts showing you where the move is going to go, gives you a bit of bang for the buck for what you're spending for your skills. But the real fun doesn't really start until you get, as you can see here, with Stun Wave level 6. This is when it starts going a lot further, obviously doing more damage, and it's basically reaching somewhat half screen. The real kicker doesn't come in until you get it to the max level, which is Stun level 7. And from what you're going to be able to see in a moment, with Stun Wave level 7, you're basically hitting the entire length of the screen. And it's very spammable. You can basically dodge and do another one just to go and hit people in another lane, as I was saying before. It applies whatever status effects you have to the weapon, generates Berserk, and it's less durability damage overall since you're basically not in a huge scuffle. So again, keep all this stuff in mind if you're thinking about using out this skill. Also, just to let you guys know, there is a really nice skill simulator that you can use, and I'm going to link in the description of this video and all of my videos. If I miss one, please let me know. But the amount of skill points it takes for the levels I've shown, for the first level of Stun Wave, it's going to take 1 skill point total. For the 4th level of Stun Wave, 6 skill points total. 6th level of Stun Wave is going to be 12 skill points total. And the last level of Stun Wave to clear it all out is going to take 17 points in total. So the next move in the Amazon's kit is going to be Neck Splitter, which is a really strong attack that you can do after doing a double jump, which allows you to do a nice smack of damage to somebody that's going to do increased damage when they're grounded. This is one of these moves that I always thought was cool, but I could never find a place to put it within my skills when I played Amazon. Mostly because there's a lot of bosses that you can't just knock down and get additional damage for. That doesn't mean it's still not a useful move, because there's plenty of gear that increases not only the damage of Neck Splitter, but also the damage on downed opponents. So if you are able to maybe combine it with like a high level of slide, which gives a better chance to knock down, there's different gear that also increases the chance of knocking opponents down. It'll be pretty nice for the mobs or any mid bosses that can get knocked down. So I don't think anybody should sleep on the move if they think it's cool, because this is one of those games where I feel like you can play it whatever way you want. End game or not, it's all up to you and how you like the challenge. From what you can see here, once you get Neck Splitter level 1, it just gives you access to the Neck Splitter effect. You see yourself come down a lot faster. You can tell you're actually doing the move, and in some of the footage you'll see me try to attempt to knock down and hit it, but it's kind of hard to really differentiate the damage, so I'm just gonna move on with what's going on. The next one you see is basically Neck Splitter 5. You can actually see a kind of shockwave effect coming out of the weapon. That's really the only difference that you see outside of, the damage if you're actually calculating it. So you'll notice, like if you're playing with other Amazons, if they have a higher level of neck split or not. So next is basically neck splitter 9, and you can see the shockwave effect on it is pretty huge. And after that, obviously 10, the shockwave effect is just going to get bigger and it's going to do it stronger. But I'm a bit of a completionist, so I wanted to make sure that I went and showed all levels of the skill that I felt gave you a good idea of what you're going to be getting when you purchase the skills. Because you can always reset your skills with an amnesia elixir, but it resets all of them. So it's good to get a good picture of what you want to do so you won't have to literally respec everything every time that you try to make a character. Recapping with Neck Splitter, first level basically gives you access to the effect, and every level after that is just going to continue to increase the damage output and the visual effect. Neck Splitter is going to max out at 27 skill points total. Next up on our list is going to be the Amazon's Deadly Revolution. And this is her other air move that she can use that's really useful in like a bunch of different ways. Because by default, you basically only get 2 movements with Deadly Revolution. And I don't even think it counts as a skill if you don't put points into it if you're looking to use like a weapon that increases the damage on it. But for the most part, it's really self-explanatory. As you increase the levels, you're going to get more power with your air attack and you're going to get more movement. And this is really helpful because honestly, there are so many times in the game where you just don't want to be touching the ground. Literally because the ground may be on fire or there's a bunch of nonsense that you don't want to deal with or zombies. Like, just being up in the air in this game is extremely useful, and having high levels of this can be really helpful to keep yourself alive. As for Deadly Revolution, the footage that you're going to see here for it is pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to see me demonstrating that the first level gives you additional movement with your revolutions in the air, but the only notable levels, in my personal opinion, are 1, 4, and the final level, because that's when you get additional movement. For the 4th level, you're going to get an additional movement, which is going to make it 4 movements in the air and more damage, obviously. And then for the final level, it's going to be 5 movements total with a nice additional boost to the damage. And having more revolutions is great because obviously, like I was mentioning before, there's going to be times when the ground is on fire, on zombies, or on some other thing that you don't want to touch the ground with. And you can combine using multiple revolutions with her down attack and up attack and dodge in the air to stay away from the ground for a long time when you really should not be able to fly. But this gives her the ability to stay alive longer when a bunch of crap is going on the ground that you don't want to deal with. As for the skill points for Deadly Revolution, it's similar to Stun Wave. It maxes out at 17 skill points. Next on the list is going to be the Amazon's Boodle Drive, which is a skill that's associated to her power attack button. And just to note, all the melee class characters basically have a skill that boosts that power attack button. It's one of my favorite skills to use. I've basically moved it in and out my kit multiple times just because it's really fun, especially after they give you the ability to throw the weapon, which is going to give you the exact same power effect as you doing it standing in place. Once you get it to a nice level, like, it not only hurts a lot, but it has a really nice range. And sometimes if, you're having a hard time getting up there in Berserk, you can just slam the weapon down, and you can do the same tactic that any other power attack users use, which is switch a weapon and then power attack again, which isn't a bad choice. It just suffers from airborne opponents, obviously, but if you think the move is fun, as always, just use it because it's just a game at the end of the day. So in the next part of the video, as usual, I'm just going to be showcasing some of the ranges and potencies of each one of the moves. And right now we're just looking at Rudl Drive level 1. It's pretty simple. You get access to a bigger shockwave than you not having the skill whatsoever. And I'm just basically showing you what it looks like when you use it up close and when you throw it. Which, as I mentioned, when you throw it, you pretty much get the same effect. It's just you're not going to get any invincibility when you do so. Next up, you should see Rudl Drive level 5, and with this you can basically just see how much the range of Rudl Drive is increasing per level. I wouldn't suggest, in my personal opinion, just stopping at 5. Either, get 1 or none of it, or maybe 9 or 10. Just for the bang of the buck for your skills. Right now, you should be seeing Boodle Drive level 9. This is basically one of the levels that I stopped at when I didn't want to invest all the way in all of the levels. But the last one, you're going to see huge range increase with Rudl Drive level 10, which is really, really cool. It looks awesome, and it shares the same type of effects when you get different weapons that go and increase the effects on Boodle Drive. Because you can get stuff such as applying poison clouds to your Boodle Drive. Sometimes I think you can get lightning. I know you can definitely get a bomb effect. But it all depends on what you can find in those dungeons. So again, just like any other skill you can get in this game, depending on what equipment you have and what type of build you're going for, you can make it work for yourself and make it really fun. As for the specifics on the levels of Boodle Drive, as you can pretty much see here, it's almost the same as all the other skills we've looked at so far. The first level basically gives you access to a better version of what you already had, if not granting an ability in itself, and every level after that is just going to continue to increase the potency and the range or the visual effect. In this case, every level is making that shockwave just a little bit better than the one previous, and the further along you get, obviously the stronger it's going to be and the bigger it's going to be. But the biggest bang for your buck, in my personal opinion, is going to come with level 9 and 10. Once you get that level 10, boy, the range on the power attack is just so big. And if you can find the right weapon that'll make it even better, such as like some type of special magical effect on it, it makes it really, really fun to use. Boodle Drive is similar to most level 10 skills. It maxes out with 27 skill points. Next up is the Amazon player's fan favorite, which is Parry. So originally the skill Parry was pretty nice, but it always felt like it was missing something. But one of the first patches that you got with the PS3 Dragon's Crown introduced giving you levels of Berserk for every successful parry that you put off, which would mean you have better ways to get high levels of Berserk and maintain high levels of Berserk as long as you're getting those blocks off. And you basically have yourself getting Berserk, and at the same time you're getting yourself invincibility frames for seconds at a time to keep you alive and allow you to DPS without any care, which is really nice in higher levels of the dungeon where there's so much stuff on the screen that can kill you. So starting off, I'm showing you guys what it looks like with parry level 1, which is basically about 2 seconds. And it's just enough to get out of a sticky situation, but not too much to let you mount an offense. Like you might be able to just barely get out like a full combo and get yourself some invincibility with Brandish, and then that's about it. Next is basically going to be parry level 5, which is somewhere a little bit over 3 seconds, like 3.3 or whatnot. And me running around the stage is basically giving you a good idea of what it would feel like to have that amount of invincibility, because when you're flashing, you're not in the game. I mean, your attacks are in the game, but your hitbox is not in the game. So whatever's getting swung at you is not affecting you, which is great. The next level, I ended up skipping straight to level 10 instead of showing you the prereq level, because the difference in the length of time with parry level 9 to parry level 10 is the same across the board for all of them. The only big difference with parry level 9 to 10 is just how much damage you do when you do a successful parry. So with my current build, I think I just stopped at level 9 parry because I felt like 4.7 seconds was just enough. And I didn't really think that 0.3 seconds was going to kill me too much. But if you want all 5 seconds of it, this is pretty much what it looks like. You can basically see I can parry and dang near make a circle halfway around the room before I actually have a hitbox again in the game, which is awesome. So within that time, you can basically find a way to get parry again, you know, take a moment to use a heal potion, use like some other type of potion that's going to bring up your damage. It's whatever you want, but you have so much wiggle room to not be in the game and enough time to think about what you want to do next, which is great. It really does help late game. This skill maxes out at 22 skill points total. As for the Amazon skill Punisher, it feels more like a passive than anything, because it simply buffs up your standard 4-piece combo so that it's easier for you to get more berserk and you do a bit more damage. From what I've read online, it seems to give you a bit of an area of effect for your standard combo, so it's easier to hit multiple enemies and gives you an additional hit per strike that you do, which obviously is going to help you get berserk quicker. Luckily, Punisher isn't a big skill investment that you have to worry about. It maxes out at only 6 skill points total. This time we're going to be talking about the Amazon skill Brandish. It's the last physical skill that you're going to end up getting as an Amazon around level 15. And honestly, it's one of my favorite skills to use as an Amazon. It's just a whole lot of fun. It's basically a spin attack that gives you invincibility throughout the entirety of the spin. And the higher the level you get of the skill, the more invincibility you're going to have because you're going to keep spinning, the more damage you're going to do, so on and so forth. And it's going to let you feel like you're getting some free damage out whenever you can finish off that combo. And it's going to let you live through situations where honestly you shouldn't be able to. And you're going to run into plenty of those when you're getting in higher difficulties and lower depths of the different dungeons you're going to be playing in Dragon's Crown. In this footage, you're basically going to see the different levels of Brandish, and it's super straightforward. I just wanted to show you guys just because I wanted to do the same type of pattern I've done for the rest of the video, but also for the ones that have never played Amazon, just to see what it looks like to start out with a few levels of Brandish to get the max level. So each level is going to give you an additional spin that's going to give you more overall damage for the entirety of the finishing combo. And just remember, every single one of those spins, you're still invincible for. So the more spins you have, the longer your body technically isn't going to be in the game in terms of the hitbox. Brandish starts out a little bit different, with 3 skill points used to gain the first level, and 14 skill points for the final level. I'd like to mention this for the people who have never played Amazon whatsoever. The Amazon has a basic skill called Berserk, which is where she gets all of her DPS from. It's a skill that increases her movement, attack speed, as well as her damage based on the level of Berserk. There's 3 levels of Berserk, and you increase them by getting successful parries and continuously attacking the enemy without getting knocked off of your feet. Each level is going to give you a little bit more Berserk damage overall, starting from 10% and ending off with 60%. So every single level that you go and you put into this is going to add to your overall damage anytime you're glowing red. So keep that in mind when you're putting it in there, because in my personal opinion, I always get this one, because any RPG type game that I play, I always focus on some type of primary buff that's going to be with me no matter what I do. The Berserk skill maxes out at 27 skill points total. Adrenaline is another one of those skills that I feel is relatively straightforward with the wording. The closer you are to death, the stronger your character is going to be when she's putting in those hits. Starting at 30% more damage when you're super low to 100% damage when you max it out. So depending on how you want to play, this can be a really useful skill, but it is really scary to use the further you get to late game when things can like 1 or 2 shot you. So keep that in mind when you use it. I personally use it all the time because I love maximized damage, but sometimes I feel like maybe I should get less of it or none of it at all. It really depends on how you want to play. For Adrenaline, the skill maxes out at 16 points total. This time we're talking about the Amazon skill Warpaint. Now this skill is going to increase the Amazon's DPS by making a clone or 2 of herself to hit while she's hitting. It's very reminiscent of John Talbane or Galan's Dark Force from the Vampire Savior series, where he basically has clones of himself, almost like mirror images, doing hits while he's hitting. So basically, if you're already at, like, let's say Berserk level 3, you might have a strength potion on, and whatever other additive you might have, like Adrenaline, plus the war paint on top of it, you can really shred a boss. And it's pretty nice. The only drawback, in my personal opinion, is the limited uses, because it doesn't go up with the higher levels that you make of it. In this footage, you're going to see me walk and swing around just so you guys can see what it looks like when you use war paint. Especially when she's walking, you can see a bit of a red after image of the Amazon when she's walking back and forth. The most notable that you're going to notice it is when you're actually doing damage to, like, let's say a boss, and you can see the difference when the HP bar is going to be plummeting down if you have that nice amount of DPS already. The first 2 levels only give you 1 clone, so you really aren't going to see too much difference. The difference is how long it's going to be activated. But the last level of War Paint, you can see like a thicker outline. It's really hard for me to tell if it's 2 or not, but it just looks like it's a more pronounced after image. But I'm just showing you the aesthetic just so you can see it and just so I can be a bit of a completionist. The skill is nice to have because it doesn't cost too many points, and it maxes out at 9 skill points total. Next up is going to be the Amazon skill Incite Rage. This is a really interesting skill that's as powerful as it is dangerous to yourself, in all honesty. It's basically where you sacrifice a big chunk of health to immediately get the max level 3 version of Berserk. So you're going to be having your max attack speed and your attack movement speed. And it pairs really well with Adrenaline Rush because you're giving up anywhere between 50 to 75% of your health immediately. So if you know how to keep yourself alive, you're going to be doing all the damage that you could be doing. And we're not even factoring in, if you're using any other type of rune buff or potion buff or whatnot. So keep that in mind. So right here's some footage of me using the Amazon's Incite Rage skill, levels 1 through 3. The first level really only gives you about 3 seconds to be at max Berserk, and then it's going to start going down, and it only takes about 50% of your health. Each level is going to take a little bit more health, and it's going to give you a nice time boost to the rest of the skill itself. So level 2 is going to give you 6 seconds for max Berserk. Level 3 is going to end up giving you a whopping 12 seconds for max Berserk, which is pretty big because normally once you get a certain level of Berserk, for you to maintain it, you have to put in those hits. But the good thing about Incite Rage is that whatever level you're using it at, it's going to give you that level even if you're not hitting anything. Meaning you can go and have that 12 seconds of max level Berserk while you're keeping yourself from being staggered to keep that Berserk. Once the 12 seconds are up, if you still have things to hit or things to parry, you'll be able to continue to keep that level of Berserk, which is really nice. But keep it in mind, I think it's a really powerful skill. It's just you have to know how to keep yourself alive and have the right skills and items and sometimes partners that you're going to be partying with to help you stay alive in those situations to keep dishing out that damage. Because if you can stay alive through the dungeon at like 20% health with max level Berserk somehow, you're going to be tearing through everything. But you have to keep in mind that later in the game, in the deeper dungeon, the higher levels of difficulty, there are going to be things that are going to 1 and 2 shot you. Like just outright. Like you could literally slip on a banana peel and it does like 499 damage. So keep that in mind when you're looking into and investing in the skill if you choose to. Here's the numbers for Incite Rage. Like I was mentioning, as you can see here, the higher the level you have, the more uses you have, the more HP loss you get, which couples really well with Adrenaline, which is going to give you more damage the weaker you are. And also the duration for having that max level Berserk that you get with Incite Rage. Incite Rage takes 6 skill points to max out. Next up on our list is the Amazon skill Iron Will. And with this skill, you can basically ignore all knockback and take damage like a champ for only 1 HP per hit, at the sacrifice of a percentage of your health every second. By itself, Iron Will feels kind of dangerous because you're gradually taking that HP damage regardless of what you do, but if you combine it with the right things that actively give you health back, like an invigorating potion or the favored chaos pendant that the Amazon gets in Labyrinth to Chaos, it feels a lot more practical and safer to use. Especially when you factor in the fact that when you're in parry invincibility, you don't take any of that Iron Will tick damage at all. I got that tip from my friend Mitsu. Keep that in mind. In this footage, you're going to see me using different levels of Iron Will, basically just to show you what the HP loss is going to look like. Each new level of Iron Will is going to give you more usages of Iron Will, as well as that more time to be in this state. But more time in that state means more HP loss. So right now you're most likely seeing level 1 of it. The next one you're going to see is going to be level 3, which is when you get 4 uses of it. And then after that, the last one I'm going to be showing you guys is how much HP loss you get once you're at the max level of Iron Will, which is Iron Will level 5. And you can see that it's quite a bit of HP loss that you have over time. But for an Amazon, she does have methods of getting all of that back. So I do feel like this is something that you could try out to see if it works, because one of my Dragon's Crown buddies, I usually just called Mitsu, suggested giving it a shot for that late game when certain times you just won't be able to really keep yourself alive. Here's the numbers for Iron Will. Obviously, first level gives you access to Iron Will with 3 uses and 8 seconds. And the more levels you put into it, more usages, more time. As for the skill points for Iron Will, it maxes out with 12 skill points total. That's going to be about it for this video. For the ones that did watch it all the way through, I really do appreciate it as always. I hope with this video, whoever was interested in the Amazon got a better picture of what her skills look like and what you might want to use. I am going to be trying to finish the rest of the characters. It just does take a bit of time to make these videos. And for the ones who are interested in either getting some games in Dragon's Crown or watching some stream, I do stream it from time to time at twitch.tv/Asinjo with the underscore in between the N and the J.